Today we're diving into the incredible story of a man named Devananda Pandit. He was a master scholar who knew a sacred text inside and out, or so he thought, but he completely missed its central message. And his journey from this place of incredible intellectual pride to deep humility, it reveals a really powerful truth about where wisdom actually comes from.
I mean, think about it. What if the real key to understanding a sacred text wasn't just in the book itself? Imagine spending your whole life studying something, becoming this world-renowned expert, only to find out you've missed the entire point. That's the fascinating question at the heart of this story.
And this really sets up the central conflict for us. On one side, you've got intellectual knowledge, analyzing, memorizing, debating the text. And on the other, you have this heartfelt, lived connection, a devotional experience. Devananda Pandit, our main character, he started out firmly on the side of the mind. And this story is all about the journey he was forced to take toward the heart.
All right, so let's meet the man himself. This section is all about Devananda's initial reputation as this highly respected teacher, but also about the subtle and pretty critical flaw that would set this whole story in motion. So picture this. We're in the town of Kulia in India, and Devananda Pandit is the guy to see if you want to understand the sacred text, the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was a famous scholar, a professional reciter. Students just flocked to learn from him. By all accounts, he was at the absolute top of his game.
But, and there's always a but, right? There was a problem. His understanding was being filtered through this very specific philosophical lens, one that sees the divine as this abstract, impersonal force. So his readings, yeah, they were brilliant, but they had no heart. They were purely academic, and they were missing that personal, devotional connection that the text was actually meant to inspire.
And this sort of intellectual but heartless approach, it leads directly to the story's big inciting incident, a really grave mistake with serious spiritual consequences. An event that becomes known as the mad elephant offense.
So here's how it all went down. A deeply devoted man named Srivasa Pandit comes to one of Devananda's lectures, and as he's listening, he's just overcome with spiritual emotion. He starts crying, rolling on the ground in total ecstasy. Well, Devananda's students, they just see this as a disruption, and they physically drag him out. And here's the most critical part of this whole thing. Devananda, the teacher, the expert, he just watches. He stands there and does nothing to protect this devotee.
Now you have to understand, in this tradition, Devananda's inaction was not a small thing. It was considered an aparadha, a serious spiritual offense. And disrespecting a pure devotee like this is seen as a massive obstacle on your spiritual path.
And the imagery used to describe this is just so powerful. It's called the Hari Mara Aparadha, or the mad elephant offense. The idea is that your devotion is like this delicate plant, this little creeper vine that you're carefully nurturing. And an offense like this, it's like a mad elephant storming into your garden and just ripping that plant right out of the ground. It's that destructive.
So, years go by after this incident, but the story is far from over. A divine figure is about to show up, and Devananda is about to get his first, very direct lesson in what devotion really means.
One day, the great spiritual master Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is passing through Kulia, and he happens to overhear Devananda's recitation. And when he hears that same dry academic interpretation, totally devoid of any heart, he becomes absolutely furious. In a voice loud enough for Devananda and everyone else to hear, he declares that the Bhagavatam isn't just a book, it is the literary incarnation of God himself, and its purpose isn't some intellectual debate. Its one and only subject is devotion. Period. Then Mahaprabhu uses this amazing analogy. He says, look, if the ancient Vedas are like milk, then the Srimad Bhagavatam is the butter. It's the most concentrated, the most essential part. It's the churned essence of all wisdom. So Devananda hears all of this. A divine master is literally standing right outside his house, calling out the core flaw in his entire life's work. And what does he do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. His scholarly pride was just so massive that he dismissed it, thought nothing of it. His heart was just not ready to change yet. But time has a way of softening even the proudest hearts. And in this next part of the story, we see how a very simple act of service finally starts to open the door for Devananda's redemption. So more time passes. Mahaprabhu leaves the area. And it's in that quiet, in that absence, that Devananda's pride finally starts to crack. He begins to feel this deep regret, thinking to himself,
Wow, such a great soul filled with divine love came right to my doorstep, and I never even went to see him. The seeds of remorse were finally taking root. And the real turning point, it comes at a chanting festival. Devananda sees another pure devotee, a man named Vakreshvara Pandita, dancing in pure ecstasy, and he's just awestruck. This time, instead of analyzing it, he feels moved to act. He humbly picks up a cane to gently manage the crowd so the dancing isn't disturbed. Then, when Vakreshvara finally faints from the intensity of his devotion, Devananda rushes to his side, cradles his head, and gently wipes the dust from his body with his own cloth. This selfless, humble action, what's known as bhakti seva, this was the key that started to unlock his heart.
So this single act of service sets the stage for the story's climax. Devananda is about to get the final lesson, the one that ties everything together, and he's going to get it straight from the master himself.
When Mahaprabhu finally does return to Kuliya, he finds a very different Devananda waiting for him. The proud scholar is gone. In his place is this humbled man who approaches from a distance, offers his respects, and just waits, hoping for forgiveness.
And Mahaprabhu's response is so revealing. He says, "I am now pleased with you." But why? Not for his scholarship? Not for all his learning? He says, "Because you have served my devotee Vakreshvara, by that service you have now been able to approach me." That's the key. His service to the devotee was the act that finally opened the door to the divine.
And right here, Mahaprabhu delivers the ultimate teaching, the secret that Devananda had been missing all along. He explains that there are actually two Bhagavatas. There is the book Bhagavata, the physical scripture, and then there is the devotee-Bhagavata, the living, breathing person whose very life is an expression of that book's teachings.
This is the mic drop moment right here. The two are not different, Mahaprabhu says. And here's the secret. You can't truly understand the book without pleasing the person. It's only by serving the devotee-Bhagavata that the book Bhagavata finally reveals its true deep meaning. Scholarship alone will never be enough.
So following this instruction, Devananda goes directly to Srivasa Pandit, the very man his students had thrown out all those years ago, and he begs for forgiveness. And Srivasa, he just embraces him. The offense is cleared, and Devananda's redemption is finally complete. He's welcomed back into the community, not as a great scholar, but as a humble devotee.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. Devananda learned that to truly understand the book, he had to serve the person who lived it. It makes you wonder, right? In our own lives, in whatever we're trying to learn, where else might serving a person unlock way more wisdom than just studying a subject?